Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got a really fun knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the PMP Knives Kodiak, which is essentially the Beast, or the Alpha Beast, but with a much thinner profile. It's still a huge knife, but compared to the original Beast and the more recent Alpha Beast, if you like to carry knives like this, way easier to carry. It's also less expensive. It's been a long time since the original Beast came out, so I don't know how they would price that thing now, but definitely less expensive than the Alpha Beast. These are available. I will link them right down below. I got this, this was sent actually by Tools for Gents. Thanks so much to Tools for Gents for sending this in. It does help my channel when you use those links to buy knives like the Kodiak, but that's entirely up to you. Thanks so much to my patrons for supporting me, and please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. Okay, let's go ahead and get a measurement of the Kodiak. They do come in a bunch of different colors, so if you don't like the gold ano, they have black, gray, blue, regular tumbled, etc. Overall length, I think this is still a 9-inch knife. Yeah, it's 9 inches. Blade length is coming in at about 3.85. Cutting edge is coming in at 3.75 inches. Let's go ahead and do, you know what, we'll do the Alpha Beast first. I have an Alpha Beast here. So this, about the same length and similar profile. They have the Tanto. I really wish that they had done this crazy compound Tanto on the Kodiak, but they did like a drop point. Now, where it's different though, it's in thickness. So one of these is a lot thicker, like just way thicker. The tie scales, you know, they got a reasonable slim down, but the blade, I'm thinking it's like at least 2.5 Kodiak blades could fit in here, right? And the crazy thing is that, so this guy's it's like 0.4 inches. It's the thickest knife that I have. It's one of the thickest folding knives ever, right? There are definitely folding knives that are thicker. I mean, PMP is not the only company to ever do a crazy thick knife, but definitely one of the thicker boys out there. But this guy is still a fairly thick blade. So let's go ahead and do some more standard size comparison. So up against the Ontario Rat Model 1 and the Ontario Rat Model 2. So you can see here, I mean, it's still an absolutely gigantic knife. It's really only when you put it up against the Alpha Beast that it looks normal. But, you know, the Rat 1 is not a small knife, but it's being absolutely dwarfed by the Kodiak here. Up against the Demco AD 20.5. Same kind of thing. In fact, pretty much the rest of the size comparisons, it's going to look small. The Spyderco PM2, the Spyderco Para 3, and finally, let's do the Benchmade Grip Cylinder, in this case, the Ritter Hogue, and for some reason, it's humor at this point, I guess, the Benchmade Bug Out. Okay, how's the action? The action's good. These are still made in China, right? As you could have guessed, I'm sure. The blade is still heavy enough that it is absolutely assisting in the drop shuttiness, but the pivot itself is also fairly smooth. You can reverse flick this. This is more of a, you know, get the meat of your finger under that. Using your fingernail, I don't know, but if I get the meat of my finger underneath there and kick it out, then it works just fine. Deploying it with your thumb this way is also very easy. It's not so fall shut that it's going to come down like a guillotine on your fingers, but it's still a lot of blade, and it is definitely sharp. So be cognizant of that. I'm glad that they put the thumb stud in the right place. The thumb studs are substantially smaller than the thumb studs on the Alpha Beast. I mean, they are way smaller, and I think that's probably for the better. I think that makes more sense there. Let's go ahead and do carry profile. So thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. It's pretty thick, right? You're going to notice it unless you exclusively carry gigantic knives. The length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3. It's big. It's a big rectangle. I don't know that I really need to go into too much detail there. How about a hardware check? I'll get out my tools as per usual. My tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. I'm pretty sure that even the pivot on this thing is a T8. That's how it was on the Alpha Beast.
Yeah, it's a T8, and that's fine. That's great. I just like it's everything else is so oversized and ridiculous about this. It's the same thing that I said with the Alpha Beast. Why not do like a T25 or something silly, right? But okay. And then we have, holy crap, 5 screws on each side. Wow. 2 for the pocket clip. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 screws holding in the enormous backspacer. You probably could have gotten away with 3, like 1, 2, 3, right? Or 1, 2, 3, or 1. I don't know why we need this because of how this is lipped in here. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, but they chose 10. So taking it apart will not be hard. It'll just be tedious because you have so many screws, but okay, right? I don't want to get hung up on that either. Let's weigh it. It's definitely still heavy. The weight on the Kodiak, by the way, materials, titanium and M390. That's what we're looking at. Yes, M390, not D2, like the Alpha Beast or the Beast before it. This is M390. So there you go. I'm sure that doesn't necessarily make a ton of sense. The weight on this knife coming in at 10 ounces. So still very, very heavy versus the average folding knife. Let's go ahead and measure blade stock thickness because as I mentioned, even though it is definitely a much, much thinner Alpha Beast, it's still not a thin blade. I mean, if you're a fan of overbuilt knives, we still have 196 thousandths on the blade stock. That is thicker than a Hinder XM24. So still huge, definitely. Still a big, robust knife. Absolutely, no questions asked. I think that's pretty much it. Let's go ahead and move into the meat and potatoes here. I'll tell you what I love is that we actually have texturing on the scales. The frag pattern, I think, looks really, really good and just adds to the ridiculous. Like, this is supposed to be ridiculous, right? We're always going to get people saying, big knives like that are pointless because you're really just, it's adding an element of, just being stupidly heavy and it's just a cumbersome object and they're not going to cut as well. And yeah, I think the people who buy this stuff know that. I certainly know that. It's still sharp though. It's still absolutely a knife that can slice, and I'm sure that it does it better than you would have expected, right? A lot of times you'll see guys on YouTube saying, oh, it's so thick behind the edge, it just can't, look at that, it does a terrible job cutting. Yeah, if you cut it like a Neanderthal, that's what's going to happen, right? But if you actually try, yes, the cutting edge, the factory cutting edge is still plenty sharp. The issue, what they should be pointing out, and what I try to point out every time, what they're trying to say is that the geometry of the blade is one that does not readily pass through material, especially if it is thick or dense material or abrasive material or all of the above, right? Like anything that can cause drag, because you have a huge flat here, and this is flat ground. The flat takes up more than 50% the height of the blade, so you're pushing a huge wedge through the material. Is the final cutting apex sharp? Yes, but if you cut straight into something, you're pushing this whole thing, right? The point is, you're gonna have a lot easier time breaking down a cardboard box with an Opinel than you will this knife, right? The vast majority of things that you do with a knife will be more along the lines of simple, right? You're not doing anything. Most people are not going to do anything extreme or more in line with what you would assume the purpose of this geometry would be intended for, right? You're just going to be doing normal stuff. And for normal stuff, yes, this will slow you down. But if you're like me, you don't carry stuff like this because it is the most optimized tool. You carry stuff like this because it's neat, right? And I think that's totally fine. I don't think you need a reason. You can just go, I'm going to carry that because I want to, right? I got tons of stuff in my collection that I carry just because I want to. As long as you have a belt, you should be okay if you really want to carry this. It's actually really comfortable because there's so much handle, and the handles, it's a classic handle shape. The edges are all very nicely knocked down. And there's so much here that, it feels kind of bricky, but it's not a sharp brick. The edges are not sharp. There's so much material here, and it's wide enough that it fills the hand in a comfortable way. It's one of those knives where you pick it up and you go, Oh yeah, and if you're like me, you kind of like you like your knives to be a conversation piece. I got a few friends who like to see what I'm carrying, and this is the type of knife where when I get it out, it's always fun to see their facial expression because it's everybody does the same thing. They go oh, and that's what I think that was the intention of the designer, who by the way is actually right here, and that is Carlo. I'm going to say Maria Massa, and I don't know if that is pronounced correctly, but I'm sorry if it's not. But yeah, that's the actual designer. I have to imagine that he was designing, based on his preferences. And I have to guess that he kind of likes that, that feeling, right? So just fun. The machining quality is very, very good. Everything looks fantastic. Seating of the hardware all looks nice. The ano, very consistent. Everything looks great. I think the backspacer is really the cherry on top of just the insanity, like going, to infinity and beyond. Can this video get demonetized for that? Is it like a copyright? Can I not say that? I have no idea. But the backspacer is just insane, but it looks good. I mean, if you like this type of aesthetic, right, there's going to be plenty of people who don't like it, and that's totally okay. But if you like this aesthetic, the backspacer looks awesome. It's just crazy. Everything looks so meaty and armored up and ridiculous. And it actually provides functional traction. This isn't something I feel like I'm going to drop. It does feel substantially more natural, obviously, than something like the Alpha Beast. The Alpha Beast is just humorously oversized, intentionally humorously oversized. But this feels like, between the two, it's like, here are your choices for use, the Alpha Beast or the Kodiak. I'd pick the Kodiak because it's just way, way more convenient. It's way less inconvenient, I guess is a better way to put it. The jimping extends out to the spine of the blade, and it does feel plenty functional. The blade itself is I'm going to call this a shovel point. It's more of a spade than anything else, but I mean, it's a drop point, right? We got a flat, carries out about 80% the length of the blade. We get a little swedge up here. You got a tip, you can poke. It's not going to be the best at puncturing. Very strong, obviously. I mean, even with M390, there's just so much material out here. You're going to have better strength than something like a pokey little needlepoint M390 blade. I'm not sure that M390 is the best choice. In fact, I'm absolutely sure that M390 is not the best choice for this blade steel, but I think a lot of people, especially at the price tag, are going to be happier to get M390 than D2. But a more appropriate choice for this geometry, Crewware 3V for stainless, S45VN. There's a number of other steels that would have been really cool, but M390 is fine, right? Great. That's the thing that's kind of like if we're not sure, but we need to give it that premium feel, put M390 on it, right? So there you go. It's got kind of a shiny blasted finish, which is fine. They included the drainage holes on this one too. I'm kidding, right? I don't know if they're what they're supposed to be. Maybe just busying up an otherwise very boring area, right? A lot of people say that, it's for weight reduction and balance in the blade. I don't know, maybe. It is balanced right behind the pivot, so perhaps that is the reason there. I don't know. The blade looks good. The cutting edge, the final apex looks good. No issue there. We have a gigantic lanyard thing, if you like lanyards. So there you go. We have a pocket clip that is mounted below that lanyard thing, which I never like, but okay. A substantial amount of this knife sticks out of your pocket, which is generally a problem, in my opinion, right? That happens when you prioritize the lanyard hole over the clip. But it's even more so because there's so much butt on this knife. I mean, this thing has a donk, and it is sticking way out of your pocket. So some people are going to be bothered, some people aren't. The clip is milled, and obviously the backspacers. I mean, this backspacer is like, there are knives that have titanium backspacers, but it's like 1/10 the material. There is a lot of material in the backspacer. So a lot of clip, a lot of backspacer. Also, it looks like there's not a steel lock bar insert on this guy, but there actually is, and it's because it's just hidden. It's on the inside, and they didn't put anything in the outside, but you can see right there, you can see the lock bar insert, so that's nice, and it does double as the over travel stop. We have a stop pin located kind of in its usual place. A lot of shouldering actually wrapped around there. Runs on bearings, no blade play, up, down, left or right. I don't know if you can actually see the bearings in there, but no blade play, up, down, left, or right. Plenty of surface contact, good geometry with the lock bar. No lock stick, no pivot lash, very smooth and consistent, and here it'll only get better. And a good detent, honestly. You know, a lot of times these big, clunky, crazy, heavy knives just don't feel like they've got good detents, but this one does, and this guy is also centered. So, price tag. It's 389 euros, so even more in US dollars. That's a lot. I think I could have choked down a $350 US price tag on this. It just feels like a lot of money. I mean, you know, people are going to have different feelings here because on one hand, if we just go with like the amount of material in this, it has substantially more material than the average titanium frame lock with M390, you know, from China. There's a lot more material. There's also a substantial amount of machine work in it, right? A lot of, like, if you just give me on paper, you're like, yeah, it's made in China. We got titanium. We got bearings. It's a frame lock. It's got a little bit of extra machine work in it, and it's M390. What do you think? I'm like, that sounds like a $225 knife, right? Well, yeah, because I'm thinking kind of where we knives should be, or a lot of their competition is. But this, you show me this, I go, oh, that's substantially larger, right? There's actually quite a bit more material in there, and then there's absolutely more machining in there. So, you know, is there a justifiable price bump there? Yeah, I think so, yeah. But it's starting to get a little high there. You know, we're 389 euros. That's a lot of money. If you are a gigantic fan of overbuilt knives, right? I mean, let's not. You know, I don't want anybody to be confused. If you're new to knives and you're thinking like, are like thicker knives more durable, or are they like more capable, and so are they more of like an apocalypse ready knife? No, not really. This is a frame lock. It just has more surface contact, right? It's heavier. It's more. There's substantially more in the lines of inconvenience than there is in actual functional utility here. Most people buying this stuff are totally aware of this. And we always have people trying to educate people like, you guys, you're spending your money on something you're not getting any additional utility out of. Oh my gosh, thank God I'm here to save everyone. Shut up, guy. Everybody knows. Like, you're freaking late to the game, brother. Like, way, way late. Just like super late. Everybody knows. The people who buy this stuff for the most part know that, right? If you didn't, yes, that is correct. You're really not gaining any meaningful sense of utility out of the excess thickness in the materials, right? It's just, they're just fun. Some people really like overbuilt knives. I do. I specifically collect, I have a specific section of my collection that are just overbuilt knives that are, they're just kind of ridiculously oversized, and it's fun, and that's okay. If you're into that, then I think you'll feel like this is money well spent, or at least close to it. If you're not into that, no, there's nothing here for you. If you're looking for a functional, high quality utilitarian cutting tool, you can get that for quite a bit less money. This is more of a collector enthusiast thing, and in a specific corner of that. That's what this is. But it's made well. It's made well, and I'm glad they didn't do D2, right? So yeah. That's really all I have to say about this one. It's fun. I'm happy that PMP sent me one to take a look at. So once again, I'll have this linked down below if you guys want to check it out. Thanks again to Tools for Gents and PMP for sending this in. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.